It took some time before anyone figured out why this cat was sitting so still and scared inside a bucket for days. But when they finally understood what was really going on, people were absolutely shocked. On a street in Houston, Texas, this cat sat quietly in a bucket, peeking its head out and watching people walk by. That bucket had somehow become its new home. But what no one realized was that the cat was going through something terrible. It was in serious trouble and needed help right away. It's not unusual to see a cat curled up in a tight spot or just lounging in its favorite little bed. That's exactly what most people thought was happening here. For several days, folks walked past without thinking twice about the soft, blue-eyed cat nestled inside the metal bucket. It just looked like a cat resting quietly, taking in the world around it. But this wasn't just a lazy cat hanging out. Its big blue eyes weren't calm. They were pleading for someone to notice. There was something different about this cat. It had been sitting there for days, yet its expression never changed. Eventually, people began to sense that something wasn't quite right. That growing feeling of concern made some stop and take a closer look. From a glance, you could only see its head and two front paws sticking out, but the rest of its body was oddly hidden. That's when kind-hearted people leaned in and saw what was really going on, and the sight broke their hearts. This sweet cat hadn't chosen to be in that bucket. It wasn't just hanging out, it was stuck. And not because the bucket was too small. What held the cat there was something far worse. It was trapped in hardened roof tar that had solidified inside the bucket. No one could understand how the cat had ended up there, caught in such a brutal way. Everyone who looked at the poor thing was confused and horrified. How could this happen to a cat? No one had answers, but the pain and fear in the animal's eyes said it all. This innocent cat was stuck in thick, rock-solid roof tar, completely helpless. It couldn't escape. It couldn't move. It was a heartbreaking thing to witness. Anyone who saw it felt a deep sadness, knowing the cat must have been suffering terribly. Somehow, this cat had been trapped there long enough for the tar to fully harden. And roof tar isn't something that's easy to get out of. It's made to hold strong materials together, so once it sets, it's nearly impossible to break. Tragically, that's what had happened here. This poor cat had become completely stuck in the harsh, sticky substance. The first people who noticed the cat's struggle tried gently pulling it out, hoping it was just lightly caught. But when it didn't budge, not even a little, they knew this wasn't something they could fix on their own. This wasn't a simple case of a cat stuck in a box. It was something much more serious. After trying everything they could think of, the people who found the cat knew they needed professional help, and fast. That's when Friends for Life stepped in. This group isn't just any animal shelter. Friends for Life has saved animals all over the country, and now they were determined to help this poor cat stuck in the bucket. What makes this shelter truly stand out is that it's a no-kill shelter, firmly believing that every animal deserves a chance. While other places might turn away animals that are old, sick, or injured, Friends for Life never gives up on any of them. That same belief is what drove them to do everything they could for the cat trapped in tar. As soon as the experts from Friends for Life got involved, it became clear that freeing the cat wouldn't be simple. The poor thing had gone through so much while trapped in that bucket. The tar had stuck to its skin and even affected its bones. Even during the rescue, the cat had to endure more pain just to be set free. There was no way to pull it out without causing serious harm because the tar had hardened completely around its body. So the professionals took a careful, step-by-step approach. First, they tried to soften the tar using a mix of mineral oil and vegetable oil. The idea was to break down the hardened tar just enough to start easing the cat out. While the oils did help a bit, there still wasn't enough room to remove the cat safely. So the team had to take the next step. They began cutting through the metal bucket itself. With steady hands and complete focus, the specialists started slicing into the bucket, doing everything they could to avoid hurting the cat any further. The whole time, the cat just looked up at them with those wide blue eyes. It was clearly in pain, but also clinging to hope. The rescue process was slow, stressful, and exhausting for both the rescuers and the cat. But finally, after a lot of effort, they managed to free it. Unfortunately, this was just the beginning of the cat's journey. Once it was out of the bucket, everyone could see how badly the tar had damaged its body. The poor animal had suffered more than anyone had expected. Even though it had survived being trapped and was finally free from what could have been its grave, the fight for its life wasn't over. The next step was a long road of emergency medical treatment. When the team first examined the cat, things looked bleak. Its condition was so serious that some people wondered if it might be kinder to end its suffering. But the cat had already made it this far, and Friends for Life wasn't going to give up on it now. If it had been any other shelter, the cat might have been put down right away. But this lucky tabby ended up with the team at Friends for Life, a no-kill shelter that believes every animal deserves a fighting chance. Even though the cat's condition looked really bad, the staff didn't give up. They were determined to do everything possible to help him heal and get his life back. What most people didn't realize was just how much damage stepping into that hot tar had caused. It wasn't just about getting stuck. The shelter team had to shave off large patches of the cat's fur because the tar wasn't coming off with simple washing. That thick black goo had been stuck to him for days. In some spots, the tar had gotten so hot it had already burned the fur clean off. But missing fur was the least of his problems. Once the skin was exposed, the team saw bright red patches where the tar had chemically burned the cat's body. And as they continued examining him, things only got worse. The cat had clearly fought to get free, probably twisting and turning for hours in pain. That struggle left him with a broken leg and a fractured pelvis. One of his legs was in such bad shape there was no way to save it. It had to be amputated. After the surgery, everyone held their breath. To the surprise of many, the cat made it through. But this was just the start of a long journey. There was still tar stuck to parts of his body, and the vets were seriously concerned that some of the chemicals had gotten into his system through his skin. So, the care team started washing him every single day using warm water mixed with Dawn dish soap, hoping to remove the tar bit by bit. They also applied medicine to treat the burned areas and ease his pain. Along with daily cleaning, the cat was put on cage rest so his pelvis could heal properly. He was also given an Elizabethan collar to stop him from licking or scratching his wounds. The recovery wasn't quick. He spent months under medical care, slowly healing before he could even be considered for adoption. The rescue from the tar bucket had saved his life, but it changed everything for this brave cat. After surgery, he faced the hard challenge of living with just 3 legs. Losing one hind leg meant he had to learn how to walk and move all over again. Thankfully, the vets did a great job helping him regain strength. At first, nobody was sure how well he'd adapt, but over time, he surprised everyone. Months later, he was running, climbing, and playing almost like he used to. The staff at Friends for Life gave him a fitting name, Tarleton, after the awful roof tar that nearly took his life. Once Tarleton had fully recovered, he blossomed into a sweet, friendly cat who loved spending time with the other cats and staff at Friends for Life. He'd been through so much, but he never lost his gentle nature. Slowly, with time and care, he got to a place where he could finally play, stretch out in the sun, and enjoy life again. The people at Friends for Life said that throughout his treatment, it was like he understood they were helping him. Despite the pain, he was never fussy or angry. Most animals in pain would react when touched near their wounds, maybe hissing or pulling away. But not Tarleton. He never lashed out, even when the vets had to treat his burns or change his bandages. It was as if he trusted them completely, which made his story even more touching. His rescue wasn't a typical case either. The specialists who worked on Tarleton admitted that his situation was one of the hardest they'd ever handled. The shelter director shared that there was no guide or manual on how to get a cat unstuck from a bucket full of roof tar. They had to figure it out as they went. The team searched for ideas online and brainstormed together, determined to find a way to save him. Giving up just wasn't an option. Once Tarleton had healed, there was one big question left. Who would care for him now? No one knew exactly how he'd ended up in that bucket. He could have been a stray, or maybe someone had done it on purpose. Either way, he needed a home. But would anyone want to adopt a cat with only 3 legs? Luckily, Friends for Life was the perfect place for a cat like Tarleton. They never turned their backs on animals just because they looked different or had special needs. He was safe and cared for, but what he really needed was a forever home. While the shelter looked for someone who would love Tarleton as he was, he went to stay with a foster family. They made sure he was well fed, clean, and got plenty of love and playtime. And then, not long after, something wonderful happened. A kind couple reached out, hoping to adopt him. Tarleton was welcomed into their home with open arms. For the couple, he was like a little ray of light during a tough time in their lives. His strength, kindness, and resilience inspired them more than they ever expected. Watching him bounce back from everything he'd been through reminded them that healing and hope are always possible. Tarleton's journey, from being trapped and injured to becoming a symbol of hope, was nothing short of incredible. His story touched hearts and reminded everyone what love and compassion can do. If this story moved you, please consider liking the video, subscribing to our channel, and sharing it with others. You never know who might need a little hope today. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you came across a cat stuck in a bucket of tar? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.